Hey guys, mulltiy here. Today I want to talk the first time about DPS rankings in Season of Discovery. Game is now 2 weeks old. The meta is settled, even if we for sure get still some adjustments. But like always, I would say adjustments are not putting an S tier spec into a C tier and not putting usually a C tier spec into an S tier. That's why today I want to talk about it. We have here the facts, the numbers, and I want to talk a little bit about it and show you what I think. And yeah, long story short, let's hop over it. As you can see here, that's the over range of 1 week, because maybe, you know, the game is just 2 weeks old, so things change a little bit. What I can see clearly first of all is a melee heavy meta, especially if you count Hunter as a melee. I know it's not a melee, but it is an attack power spec and not a spell power spec. So best caster, best spell power spec is Warlock. Sure, Paladin also has, you know, the holy damage that he has around. And then best specs overall in the game are here all the attack power specs, with the last or least good spec is DPS Paladin, Retribution Paladin, and then we have all the spell power specs. Besides, maybe Enhancement Shaman is also, you know, a little bit yeah, hard to say, it's a hybrid. To be honest, it's a good question how much more damage he does with spell power instead of melee attack power attacks. So yeah, let's go over it. If we put here the specs, so as you can see here, if we want to start with the bottom, we have here, let us start with an F tier and then we see how it fills up here, and then we can hop over it. Yeah, we have Frost Mage and DPS Priest. DPS Priest sees now some buff, so maybe it will rise. But long story short, I don't see it very competitive at the moment. Followed by Elemental Shaman and Balanced Druid, which I'm a little bit wondering. I thought Balanced Druid is a little bit better, especially with the Wrath costing 0 mana. Elemental Shaman, like the problems always. Everybody's struggling with mana. Elemental Shaman even more than all the other specs. So that's what we see here. Then we see the Enhancement Shaman and the Arcane Mage on the next level, I would say. Enhancement. Where is the Enhancer? Is this the sign for Enhancer? I think so. And what was it? The Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage, I think for PvP could make sense. Yeah, then followed by Fire. So now we have a little bit already to figure out. Arcane Mage, Enhancement Shaman, kind of the same problems than the other ones. Also a lot of resists and stuff like this. Mana problems. Fire Mage. Let us put Fire Mage. Maybe let us put Fire Mage still here. Is that correct? Yeah, then maybe the people get mad because they are so bad valued. Let us continue like this, and then maybe I clean it up. I would left Fire Mage here, and then I would put Warlock. I just take now one Warlock thing for DPS. You know, there's a Fire spec and an Affliction spec, so they are not a big difference. So yeah, that's it. Retribution Paladin. Good thing about Paladins and Warlocks, they bring a different spec, which also can also provide the other classes for certain encounters where you maybe need a little bit more heal or a second tank. And then we have the Feral Druid and a Melee Hunter. I don't like to do it like this, so maybe let's hop over like this. So maybe let's go over like this with a very clear rogue. Really, when I see a rogue, pretty good damage, pretty good single target damage. They have a kick. They can also count as an off tank for certain scenarios. And then we also have the Hunter. I just take this one here, Hunter, and the Warrior. I think they mostly play two hands, so I take this. But you know, level 25 is not like, wow, I'm an arms warrior. I mean, at the end you're a warrior, DPS warrior. I mean, you don't even have the attack that is that sign, for example. So I think that makes it fair for everybody, because I want to make clear you can clear the raid with one of the lower tier specs here. It's just much more easy. Oh, we forgot the Feral Druid. Feral Druid on top of the A tier. I think there's a little diff. Yeah, also here's a... If there would be an S+, Rogue would be S+. If there would be an A+, Feral Druid would be A+, just to make that clear. So it's definitely counting. I did not put Melee Hunter. I don't care about it. Hunter has a good spec, so yeah. So this is the meta at the moment. Like I said, Balanced Druid gets a buff. Shadow Priest gets a buff. Frost Mage doesn't need a buff because they already have two specs that are okay. So maybe what we will see is a rising here like that, maybe now in the next few days. I would appreciate that the game is a little bit more balanced, because if you see the difference from a rogue to a priest, it's very big. If you see the difference from a rogue to a paladin, that's okay, that's fine. It's a, you know, there's always something is better than the other thing. The other thing maybe brings for that a buff that is very good. So it's always, always a little bit of change, which is completely fine. Nothing needs to be exactly the same DPS like the other things. So that's completely okay. If we see that change, that Balanced Druid is rising into the low B tier, and Shadow Priest is at least rising to around the Enhancement Shaman current Balanced Druid things, I think that would be fair for everybody, or much more nice for everybody, because the difference is too big. If you see here 42 to 94, that's just a too big difference. It's not a balanced game at the moment. It's far away from balanced. That's what I can say. A good balanced game would maybe look like Rogue is on top, and maybe the last good spec is around Fire Mage. I mean, this would be nice balance if that would be the maximum gap between the DPS specs. But Classic was not always balanced, so it's not like you can say, hey, it needs to be like that. It just would be a little bit better for everybody. So that's at the moment the tier list. We have a pretty good S and A tier stack. Sadly, pretty heavy melee attack power based, with the best spell spec is Warlock, followed by Mage. Followed by Mage. But in general, 1 second. Yeah. But in general, I can say melee attack power, and then, you know, here all these caster things with the little enhancement shaman inside. I hope they can fix this. I think always caster had more problems in the early stages of World of Warcraft Classic. But if already we see now the rise of DPS, and maybe also later on the world buffs will be more melee DPS focused, and things are rolling like in the past, then Rogue and Warrior would maybe even more shine. Because I can tell you, I see crazy Warrior DPS if they have the two-hand epic weapon, which is so much better than all the other weapons in the game at the moment. So they are still very gear dependent. Rogue not so much. Hunter, because of his pet, not so much. So at the end, this is how it looks. I hope you guys enjoy the state of the game right now. I hope they still balance it a little bit better, especially then later on in the phases, when the phases get a little bit more important than just a 10-man BFD. That's it for today's, guys. See you. Bye bye.